Yep.
Hey Steve, you decide how we're doing the elections. So. You're not asking questions. Kelly, we good?
Excellent.
Okay, hey, it's 6 o'clock or what? No, it's 5:30. I'm sorry. We usually start at 6, but tonight we're starting at 5:30. It's December 13th, 2022. This is going to be a city council meeting of the Lake Stevens City Council. We're down at the mill downtown, beautiful Lake Stevens. And so we're also here live, and then we are also on Zoom. And this meeting will be published on our YouTube channel shortly after the meeting. So with that, I would ask all to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. Clerk Schellen, can we get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Dodgy,
Present.
Councilmember Peter Shagan,
Present.
Councilmember Dickinson, present, Councilmember Georgestad.
Here.
Councilmember Ewing,
Present.
Councilmember Tajin.
Present.
Okay, we have everyone present. Can we get an agenda, please?
Yes, do we have any amendments to the agenda?
And like, we need to pull the TPD off of there.
Okay, so I have a motion to any other adjustment, maybe we can do a couple lists. We also need to add potential litigation to our executive session as well. I guess we need a second to that.
I move to move the two things off the agenda that were discussed,
No, we're removing one and adding one.
removing one and adding one. Yeah, you're right.
Okay, we have a second.
I'll second, just for clarification, Councilmember Daughtry, is that 9A that we're, or
Yeah.
9 that we're
Yeah.
removing? Okay, thank you.
And then we're adding a second item to the executive session, potential litigation. So you have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the amendment? All right, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? So we have made the amendment. Now we just approve the amendment.
Move to approve the agenda with amendments.
Okay,
Second,
all right, we have the amended agenda has been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the agenda movement? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Mayor, you have an agenda.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So we've got quite a few people here tonight, which is great to see. And I see it's mostly our young high school, probably students, because I recognize many of them as being high school students, very astute of me. So I just want to kind of give you guys a little heads up of what we're doing tonight. We will go through the agenda as I think you probably see in front of you. We have some business to go forward with. Quite a bit of this is on the consent agenda. And then tonight's main event will be city council interviews for to fill a position on the city council. So it'll be a good evening for you to be here tonight. And then we'll go into executive session. And when we do executive session, we have everyone leave the room. And it's a time that the city council just talks within itself. So with that, let's move forward to, we don't have any guest business. Let's go to citizens comments. We do citizens comments two ways, since we have folks probably online as well as in person. We'll do online first. If there's anyone online who wishes to provide citizens comments for the city council, please raise your digital hand and we'll give you 3 minutes to address the council. Is there anyone online?
I do not see any hands.
Okay, we'll make one more call. Anyone online wishing to provide citizens comments for the council? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to in person. I only have one green sheet today for citizens comments. And so when you're in person, we ask you to hit the podium for 3 minutes. We ask you for your name and your address, and then 3 minutes will begin. And that's Magda Hoff.
Good evening. My name is Magda Hopt. I live on 1003 Stitch Road in Lake Stevens, and I'm having a hard time speaking because I had oral surgery. I wasn't planning on being here today until like around 3 o'clock this afternoon. when I realized there was a meeting and I had received a letter that was posted December 1st. And I received that a few days ago after being out of the country. And it referred to the short-term rental that has been in discussion, at least since I was aware. Last April was an open hearing, which I didn't know about. And at the same time, in May, I did attend and I, excuse me, prepared an extensive research package that I submitted, and it was recorded at the time of the meeting, and it is public information. But I'm kind of here because I'm frustrated. The letter that was December 1st that I just read said that there was an advisory committee that was going to be put together. And I heard today that it's already been put together and it's supposed to be put together with residents, all different sides, including the council. And I'm really frustrated that if this is true, that it was put together already. Yet in the letter, it says, please, go to this link if you're interested in being in the committee. I feel like I'm running out of time, but we've not had enough representation on both sides. I think it's a democracy. I'm willing to accept whatever the general public or the residents of Lake Stevens decide on, but we need to be able to communicate to everybody so everybody has a voice. And I understand these letters were sent out, but to whom? And I'd like a list of all the people that were actually contacted that have these short-term rentals, because I'm not aware of them. They don't seem to be coming to the meetings. I don't think they're aware of what's going on. And I would just like a little bit more cooperation, and I'd like to be on that committee if in fact it's still open. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all the citizens' comments I have. Let's move to council business.
Councilmember Paget.
Not much, just had Veterans Commission the other day and went well. We did a survey for those of people who don't know. It'd be great if everyone veteran wise jumped on there. Looks like the Veterans Commission is going in the right direction. That's it for me.
Councilmember Jurstad.
Thank you. Today was our final formal Board of Health meeting. As many of you know, the Board of Health and the Snohomish County government are merging, and the board is becoming a department of the county. And so the board is has changed. There will be a new board starting in 2023. The makeup is different. It's defined by RCW. And so it's a little bit of a transition period. It was bittersweet, kind of a bittersweet meeting. I'm excited for the future of public health in Snohomish County. I think it's has the potential to really enhance the work that's happening in our county. The health district executive committee board will stay intact in order to sort of wrap up the business of the Board of Health. And so that could take numerous months, and I'll keep this group posted. But moving forward, we will now have a county department of health, and that'll start January 1st. Thank you.
Councilmember Dickinson.
Yes, first of all, I went to the senior center board meeting yesterday, and there will be a Christmas dinner on Christmas Day. Surprise. And if you have any senior neighbors or friends who may be interested, let them know. It's a perfect way to share the holidays when they might otherwise be alone. And it really would be lovely. The CPR classes will be taught again, and blood pressure tests will be available from the fire department. Yay. And here's a great piece of information. The NPR fencing company donated $4,000 for the Christmas dinner. How about that? Isn't that great to see Lake Stevens shine that way? So short-term rental meeting. I appreciate the opportunity to be a part of this. Our meeting last night was a great step forward. Commission and community members are great. So let's get this done, Lake Stevens. That's what I have to say. And by the way, happy holidays.
All right, Councilmember Peter Shagan.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Councilmember Daughtry.
I attended the SDR committee meeting last night along with Mary, and we did make some great progress. And looking forward to the rest of it. Hopefully it'll be just 2 more meetings and we'll be done. We've got 3 on the schedule just in case. So there you go. That's all I have.
All right. So Youth Advisory Committee met last Thursday. So I missed Baker Mayfield's comeback in the 4th quarter. But that was excellent. The youth are making good progress there. Councilmember Daughtry was also assisted with that. And so just so you guys are aware, many of you are aware, we have dozens of Ukrainian refugees in Lake Stevens. There's families that are hosting that have many of these people living in their homes. So if you want to do something out of the ordinary for the citizens of Lake Stevens, you can pretty easily contact someone and see if you can make a difference in the lives of those people. Some of the basic things like underwear, socks, and things are that would be appreciated. Anyway, thank you to those in the community that have already contributed and helped out with these folks that are coming to our community and are still coming. Mayor Gailey.
All right, great. I'm just gonna get right into our recognition. I'm gonna have to hold off on recognizing the former council member of the hour because I don't see him
I'm-
yet.
He's on his way.
He's on his way. Okay, so let's do, let's kick up a video. I would love to show folks a video, and that will tie into where I'm going with this next recognition. Great video.
I know.
Just saying.
Who, like many, faced significant setbacks during the COVID pandemic. Or on Twitter, go ahead and weigh in on this poll we recently posted on LinkedIn.
Sorry, Mayor.
You okay?
We listed 4 items that we use in our daily lives. Which one could you not live without for an entire week? Your pillow, internet access, a shower, or fuel in your car? Let us know and stick around for the results later in our event. So how does VOA give voice to those who are in need? We step in to support independence, starting in our own backyards, helping to transform individual lives right here where we live and work. Let's hear from Ramona, a single mom who, like many, faced significant setbacks during the COVID pandemic. Then she reached out to the Lake Stevens Community Resource Center for help, and it made all the difference.
I feel like everybody's story started at one spot, which was COVID. Things changed and businesses changed and then money changed. I remember going to the store and picking up a gallon of milk and it was like $4 and it was just $2. What do you mean it's $4? And then the cost of a Capri Sun, the cost of a Lunchable, like these things that my kid eats went from being the cheap food to being expensive. That's where I first saw it was the grocery stores. And then going to the gas pump, that was obvious. We all knew that was happening and we were just watching it spread across the country, right? I was putting $20 in my tank every couple days, doing Instacart just so that I could afford gas to go to work. I felt like I was spending more than I was making. And all I was doing was going to work. I had to make choices like feed my son or pay a bill late. It puts you it makes you feel like a failure, even though you didn't do anything wrong. And there's a lot of us, single moms and single dads or 2 income houses that still are not making enough. The prices of things are going up, the pay isn't. And so I've been at that threshold where I'm just right there and I can't qualify for food assistance. I can't qualify for a lot of things. And that's where the VOA steps in. It's almost like they give you the difference so that you're okay. And then a little bit more so that you're comfortable too. there was a program at one point that was able to catch me back up on rent, and I would be home, like we'd be homeless right now. We were this close to being homeless, and he never knew. Like he never knew, and I'm glad he never knew, but we're here now because of them. I've seen miracles happen, and I never thought I would have one myself. That was really where I realized, like, hey, maybe keep fighting. So today I'm catching up, which means I'm trying to get all the past dues done. We'll probably be out of that in the next 2 to 3 months, but it's going to still take a lot of work. And until then, you know, I'm still going to need toilet paper here and there. I'm still going to need, you know, snacks here and there. And then once I get caught up, then we'll be able to breathe a little easier, and just live life again.
I could get Ramona and Jance and Tina to come up here for me. So. So. Lisa, younger. So, so Ramona has cut my hair for the last couple of years, and she's the first barber I've ever had baby in a freaking barber chair. And, look at this video, and I get my hair cut, I need one because of and she showed me this video, and I realized how ungrateful I was being to an asset that we have in our community, and that's just the backstory on it. Every month, Tina works for the Greenway, runs our community resource center. He is the conduit, she's the stop measure to people in our community who need that little push, who need that little extra to get through the month, so they're not out on the street. This is a great video of Ramona and her story, and just to give you a little example, I just pulled September's monthly report. During the month of September, Tina served 133 people in our community, 48 households, 9 of them were new. She was able to disperse over $21,000 to these people. We billed over 197 calls that month. She helps with $12,000 of house-related distribution, $8,000 of utilities, and $340 in transportation. So I get these reports every month, and I look at them and I'm like, Tina does a great job. Tina does a great job. But it wasn't until Ramona put a face to these numbers that I realized I was being selfish. I haven't recognized Tina for the immense and great work that she does. So, small token, Chance, would you mind giving this to Tina for me? And I'll tell you what it says. So it says, "In sincere appreciation for your dedicated service to the citizens of Lake Stevens. Your contribution has made a positive impact on our community. We have our gratitude." Tina, you have the floor, please.
Go to the podium. Tina. Thank you.
The ones that know me know I usually don't speak. But I just want to thank Ramona for her courage. Because it's hard to ask for help. Thank you, Ramona, for trusting me with your story. And being brave and sharing it so other people know it's okay. It's okay to ask for help. And Lake Stevens has my word to continue serving our community and our most vulnerable. Thank you.
All right, did we get Sean? No, Sean, okay, all right. Let's move forward on the agenda then. And just so we know, we had some great VOA. President of the VOA is here, Steve Corsi.
Former president, this is the current CEO.
Current, correct, Brian Smith, Lake. An assistant to this.
Vice president of external affairs, Kurt Pearson.
Yeah. So thank the VOA and thanks for everything you do in our community. It makes a difference, as you can see. All right, so let's move forward to the consent agenda. Can I get a motion to pass the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
I got a motion and a second to pass the consent agenda.
I
Driving
didn't catch the second. I apologize. Was that, okay,
Marcus first and
yes, thank you.
do I have any discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda passes. We're going to move into item number 11. This is going to be rather lengthy. Kirk Chellen, do you want to describe the process we're going to go through here?
Sure.
Okay.
So we are, I'm gonna ask, well, I'm gonna take out these 7 candidates tonight for the interviews, and we'll head out to the hall, and this is what our procedures say. All of your names are in this little cup, and I will draw one and bring you in as I draw a new one. I'll bring you in for the interview. We'll set up a table here right in front of the city council. There'll be 15-minute interviews and 7 questions. Caitlin will be our moderator and be asking the questions, and I'll be bringing you in and out. And hanging out with you in the lobby as it's time for the next person. So all I need right now is the 7 candidates to come with me out to Hartford Hall. All of you can stay. And these interviews are open to the public, so welcome to hang out.
Yes.
where we put,
So will we stop the interviews if Sean comes, or we're just gonna push it off all the way to the end?
I'm chatting with him now. Do you want me to just?
Just wave him off, we'll bring him in January.
Great.
Have him come back around for another pass.
Stretch it out to 2023.
We could probably figure out like multiple reasons for him to come back and
Yeah.
every Tuesday.
Is there a way to dim it? Dim, so it's not so bright.
You know, Gary, he's like,
They're gonna use that.
he
Put the
mentioned
timer on that.
sorry, that's about the actually doing on this call meeting.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll sit over. If they can, that's, that was super quick. Yeah, let's put it over on the side there.
Right, we get it. I mean, I'd like to be. Wasn't.
Not saying it, but.
What's a new one? An email on.
Do you have the first person?
When did she send?
I will.
Last week.
Well, they,
Right?
Lotsy.
Time to shine then.
Yeah.
That's, how do you do under pressure?
Is there a reason we're seeing?
Stretching our legs.
So I have notes, I have any questions.
Great. Put my stuff away. Right. Don't get tempted.
So just so the audience knows the process here, we have 7 folks who we're going to interview. Give them each 15 minutes for 7 questions that we have for them. And then at the end of all 7 interviews, the council will move into an executive session to deliberate who they'll choose to be the next city council member on the council with them. So that's kind of it's going to be a long process, but that's where we're at. And you're welcome to stay for the whole thing and take notes and go back and talk to Mr. Hamrich, right?
Is it 15 minutes per interview? Is that correct?
Correct.
All right, we have our first applicant, it's Brian Dennis.
Good evening, everyone.
Hello.
Evening.
Good evening. So each interview tonight will be 15 minutes long, consisting of 7 questions. Please listen carefully to the interview question as each one has multiple parts. And then I will go ahead and signal when you have 2 minutes remaining, just to let you know where you're at. Okay? Council ready? Okay. First question. The council recently passed the city budget for 2023. What challenges did the council face in crafting this budget, and what adjustments would you have recommended to improve it?
That's a good question. I didn't review the entire city budget, but I always know that when you're doing budgeting at any level, whether it's a city, a county, or a corporation, we're always trying to do more with less. I know that I think my emphasis would be on public safety and our schools and just maybe community resources, such as the parks, and the council done a good job on that thus far. But other than that, you know, you just look at the numbers, compare them apart, and see where that's.
What do you think are the most important issues for the city council to address?
Well, obviously growth, our community's changed so much, right, with annexations and explosive amount of citizens moving into the community and a lot of change. Used to be when you came out there in the late 80s, you could get a house on the lake for pretty cheap, right? Maybe not cheap by those standards, but cheap by today's standards. And now we're looking at a different change, right? We've seen it in our businesses. I think the best analogy I can draw is, you know, we used to have pickup trucks coming into our place of business, but we've seen it grow company. And now we have everything from pickup trucks to Clarence to Corvettes to old cars. So the city dynamic is changing. And I think we need to do a good job of bridging that gap between how we used to be and where we're going next, right?
As the city is preparing to update its comprehensive plan, how do you deal with pushback of not in my backyard as the city evaluates housing, infrastructure, commercial and public needs with the growing local and regional population?
Good question. You know, I kind of look at it as a twofold process, right? It's interoperability. So each community can actually work with each other as the state continues to grow. You know, resources like public works, I think what we did with the fire department, consolidating that is a great example of it, where you're spreading that process across many municipalities rather than just one. It's very difficult to run a city with, you know, all inclusive as far as those municipal services go. So I think that's a good part of it. I think the pushback is, I come from New England, so I saw a lot of change, people get very possessive of how it was. Change is always hard for people. And I think the only way to really get through change is to communicate openly and be honest with what you think and stand by it. Own it.
How should the Lake Stevens City Council work with other local jurisdictions and agencies? Example, cities, counties, special purpose districts, and state agencies.
Well, I think we all have a common goal, and that's to provide the best environment to grow your families and grow your community, right? So I think that I go back to when I used to work in the first responder community. We used to, you'd show up at a big scene, a mass casualty scene or something like that, and the radios didn't talk to each other, or the fire department's nozzles were different for this hose versus that hose, right? So I think it's putting together those pieces that will extend government's benefit and reach without having to necessarily increase taxes to do that.
Do you plan on running for this council position in the next city council election, November of 2023?
Yes.
What is your vision regarding public safety in the community, and how does that vision relate to your partnership between the police department and city administration?
Well, I'm currently the co-chair of the Civil Service Commission for the city. Have been for over almost close to 2 years now. So I've been working with the chief on getting new candidates, recruiting, getting some new ideas on how to recruit new candidates to the police department. I think it's critical to have a healthy, strong, and respectful police force within the community. It's the city's council's job and the mayor's job to govern city business. It's the police department's job to kind of govern citizens, if you will, through the law. So I think we should increase our law enforcement and spend more resources towards that.
Describe what you believe to be the role of the city council within city government. Given your understanding of the role of council, what qualities will you bring that will both enhance the work of council and benefit the citizens in our city?
Well, I think the city council's role really is to make sure that the city, as it expands and grows, does it responsibly. And that can be anything from signage. We've all been in communities where you're like, wow, that looks horrible, right? That's not a very good look for a community. I think the parks are a great example of that. Nothing thrills me more now than in the summertime, seeing so many people using our parks since they've been revamped. I think that's a great example of a council doing the right thing. Managing expectations of citizens is tough. That only comes through communication. Managing expectations of growth is part of why you're in the Growth Management Act, right? You're trying to make sure that you're pulling best practices from other cities. And then, when you have pockets of density, you have to be able to connect them for the rural in between. And the only way you can do that really is through cooperation. So I think one of my skills as a communicator, I spent a lot of time in DC and the federal world. I'm not accustomed to politics and how it all works. So I think negotiations, I co-chaired the Aquafest Beer Fest and Brew Gardens in Kiwanis. And when I first jumped in, they weren't going to be able to pull it off. They weren't sure if they could do it or not. So I jumped into it with my partners. And the first thing we did was kind of go through the vendor list, and we were able to save close to $4,500 in costs, which actually made more money for Kiwanis at the end of the day for the scholarship program. So some of it is, revisiting something that's been old or, been kind of tried and true and no new changes to it in a while. Someone has to take a look at that every once in a while. I think that's kind of council's responsibility.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Questions?
That's all we have for you.
That's it. All right. Thank you.
You just don't know who the person is, so we can't say it.
We have another paper for the next person.
Yeah, as soon as we bring, yep.
I'm collecting all the extra blank ones over there.
Are you ready for your answer?
Yes.
We are.
All right, Jessica is ready.
All right.
Mayor Sean is here. So just let me know.
No, I don't want to interrupt this process.
And it's his fault.
Navy. Hi.
Hello. Good evening. Each interview tonight will be 15 minutes long, consisting of 7 questions. Please listen carefully to the interview questions as each one has multiple parts. And I will signal you when you have 2 minutes remaining, so you know where you're at. Okay?
Thanks for being here.
Happy to be here.
Good.
The council recently passed the city budget for 2023. What challenges did the council face in crafting this budget, and what adjustments would you have recommended to improve it?
I think the biggest problem was there's so many things that we want to do, so many things that we need to fix, so many things that people care about, but there just isn't the funds to fund all of these things. So being able to prioritize it, you're never going to have 100% favoritism. Like, you're not going to be able to satisfy everybody in the community. So you're going to. I tend to talk with my hands. So So basically, with that is, I saw that being the biggest problem is what has priority over something else. I'm sorry, what was the second?
Second part was, what challenges did the council face in crafting this budget, and what adjustments would you have recommended to improve it?
So many things for adjustments, but not knowing the behind the scenes, it would be more of understanding what the bigger goal of this community is, and then kind of dwindling it down in that manner. But also thinking outside the box, because just because we don't have the funds for something, there might be other means to get that. Have we thought about it? Have we, brought this up in conversation with the community? Do they understand how we can go after funds either from the federal or from donations? There's so many companies around this Lake Stevens that probably would be more than happy to help in certain instances.
What do you think are the most important issues for the city council to address?
The most important for me, I would say the community, the sidewalks. Like, I live in Westlake Stevens, and at times I feel like my little neighborhood is neglected. So if that's the case, I'm sure I'm not the only one that feels that way. So how can we reach these people? Like the lady that spoke today, she feels that she hasn't been heard. Like those people don't know what's going on. How do we reach this? How do we, like, I know I go to Target and I go to all these stores, but I never see any kind of information posted. I'm always having to go look for the information myself. So how do we reach these people that really don't have those kinds of needs? And how do we get to understand the true nature of what's going on? Right now, we can say that we have this problem and the sidewalks are an issue and the overdevelopment, developing too fast or going too fast, not enough schools. You go through all of that, but if you don't really know the entire community, you don't really know what you're really going after. So are we going after the right things in the right order?
As the city is preparing to update its comprehensive plan, how do you deal with pushback of not in my backyard? As the city reevaluates housing, infrastructure, commercial and public needs with a growing local and regional population?
That question is more of how do we see ourselves 5 to 10 years from now? Are we seeing ourselves crammed where we don't even have a backyard for your kids to play safely? Are there enough parks going on around? So it really is how we see ourselves in the future. I don't see myself wanting to live into a house where I can't even walk 3 feet, 4 feet in the backyard because I don't have it yet. I don't want us to grow so rapidly that we forget about all the side effects that causes, the congestion in the roads, the more trash we're creating, the more people are moving here, our school systems can't keep up. Just sidewalks can't even keep up because our sidewalks aren't even, I mean, it's like Stevens is the only one that's gotten a ticket for how our sidewalks are. We should be ashamed of ourselves. So, I mean, I see us growing, but I see us growing in the right way, and we can get there. We really can.
How should the Lake Stevens City Council work with other local jurisdictions and agencies? Example, cities, counties, special purpose districts, and state agencies.
Collaborating. I mean, if I go to a council meeting here, I'm sure one of us can go, represent at another council meeting. What are they doing that's working that we're not? What are we doing that they're not doing? Back and forth. We collaborate. We do the building of brainstorming. The more brainstorming you do, the better it will be. The more ideas you get, the better things that happen. So if we're not understanding what their problems are, and what they're going through, we might be unable to solve a problem that, you know, they're going through, and vice versa. So if we just collaborate, I think we'll find opportunities that we're really not catching now.
Do you plan on running for this council position in the next city council election, November of 2023?
Yes, so ever since this position became available and I sent my letter of interest, I have been looking at what it takes, what it will need, what kind of endorsements you're gonna need, what kind of votes you're gonna need, what kind of people you need to reach out to. So I've started researching and looking into it.
What is your vision regarding public safety in the community? And how does that vision relate to your partnership between the police department and city administration?
So the main thing that pops out at me is the sidewalks, because in my neighborhood, there is no sidewalks, there's just the ravines. So sidewalks is one thing that I'd like to take a look at and see how that's being prioritized. But with the police, yes, I've seen or heard on neighborhood apps and all the stuff that's going around this town that I never even thought would happen, because our town is such a small community. I'm like, how does that thing, stuff like that kind of happen? So I would like to be more involved with the police side of how can we educate the schools better? How do we even get to them? I think the communication in this community is lacking at this time, and I feel like that's one of our biggest problems. And I want to figure out how to open that up and how to not only just get all the problems, you know, everyone complains of something or the other, but like to truly get to the root cause. I'm very big on root cause analysis, that I want to find what's going on. And sometimes, most of the time, you're never going to have 100% solution. But even if we get to that 70%, we're moving forward. Work on it 70% and then come back to it in the process improve.
Describe what you believe to be the role of the city council within city government. Given your understanding of the role of council, what qualities will you bring that will both enhance the work of the council and benefit the citizens in our city?
So the council is the voice of this community. We're the voice. It's the voice. The qualities that I bring is my experience and the background that I have. I'm in supply management, so I have worked issues with, you know, beginning at the very beginning with raw materials all the way through. We're having an issue. I probably one or time or another have gone through that. I do a lot of project management, program management. I was in the Marine Corps for 12 years, so I know the red tape. I know what it takes. But the biggest thing, I know I've said it a bunch of times, is communication. Because I feel like these people, us on this side, we are not getting all the information. And that, all that does is boil through frustration. So I would really like to get to that.
Okay, thank you very much. That's what we have for you. Thank you, Jessica. Hey, Troy, can you get the mic put in front of the desk so they're not holding on to it?
Negative. No, the test was negative.
All right, everyone. Good to see you.
Didn't know the mic's on.
Mic's on.
Hi, good evening. Each interview tonight will be 15 minutes long, consisting of 7 questions. Please listen carefully to the interview questions, as each one has multiple parts. And I'll signal you when you have 2 minutes remaining, just to let you know where you're at. The council recently passed the city budget for 2023. What challenges did the council face in crafting this budget? And what adjustments would you have recommended to improve it?
Well, the main challenge is that it's a red budget. We're 2 million over budget. So I guess the big challenge is going to be is how do you continue to provide the services and not keep going into the reserves? I know it's 2 million over But I know also our growth targets are a little bit lower than what they actually achieve. I know before when I was on, you always saw that line of where the reserves are, where the budget, they always said, it's like we're gonna fall off the cliff. In 2 years, we're gonna fall off the cliff, and it always keeps to get pushed. So usually our growth seems to, I mean, hopefully that's what still happens. Bringing in Costco is hopefully gonna help. And it's gonna be a couple years so we actually achieve profit from that. But the idea was to get 20th Street zone commercial. Once you get an anchor like Costco to come in, can we get more development to come into that 20th Street Southeast area and grow that area? I know we have the car dealership now. We sold our own properties in that area, hoping that those will start building up pretty soon. So hopefully we can grow that and get that moving on when it comes to the budget, and it won't be. Hopefully cuts will not have to be made in the future. That's the goal, is not to make cuts, but to continue the services that need to be done and not to make the cuts, I guess that's what I said.
What do you think are the most important issues for the city council to address?
Growth is always going to be the problem. I think growth kind of drives everything, whether it be traffic, whether it be crime, whether it be the sidewalks, revenue, housing, affordability, you name it, all comes from growth and how you deal with it. And part of that's also dealing with our state legislature on what they're going to require of us. And when it comes to zoning, when it comes to money for them or what regulations they give us to do, it's going to be always going to be the most important thing. And of course, safety. Public safety to me is the greatest thing any government agency is supposed to do. Local, state, federal, it's always going to be public safety. Always got to continue our spending to get the best officers like we have now, the best training and equipment so they can always return home safe at the end of their shifts, and also make sure our people stay safe.
As the city is preparing to update its comprehensive plan, how do you deal with the pushback of not in my backyard? As the city reevaluates housing, infrastructure, commercial and public needs with the growing local and regional population?
Yeah, it's obviously I'm on the planning commission, been for the last 3 years, and I'm currently the chair. And so it has been, it is interesting having to deal with the not in my backyard issues that occur. The big thing is just to remind the public that growth is inevitable, but we want to be in charge of our own growth. And one thing is to watch what the state legislature do. Part of their push, and they keep kind of going that direction, is to demand or require multifamily housing where you have single family housing. So we ought to imagine every single neighborhood in Lake Stevens, if there's a single family house, imagine if the state legislature is looking at possibly making all those multifamily required also. So is working with our state legislature, working with our the new lobbyists that the city's got on staff to make sure that we get our point out there that each city has its own identity. We will grow properly, we'll do it our way and keep our own character and also keep up with our own infrastructure spending.
How should the Lake Stevens City Council work with other local jurisdictions and agencies, cities, county, special purpose districts, and state agencies?
Building those friendships and relationships. We all have some competing interests, and we also have some aligned interests. Transportation is a big one. We can make Highway 9 in Lake Stevens 6 lanes wide. We can make it look like Atlanta, where everybody can drive 80 miles an hour through Atlanta. But the problem is, as soon as you leave Lake Stevens, now you're stuck with whoever's there. You know, so Highway 9 is only 2 lanes in some areas, and we have to work with those other jurisdictions. We want Highway 9 widened, which it should be. It should be a 4-lane road at least from Arlington all the way to Woodinville. But you have to work with the other jurisdictions, get them on board so you can work with the state legislature. You know, we'll say the word trestle and just stare at it all day and say we also have to work with everybody to get a new trestle. Over $1 billion. It's going to come from only the federal government, and that's the only way it's going to ever get built. But that's going to take the pressure to get that built. Also with other, they're on Soper Hill Road, getting the widening of Soper Hill Road, heading towards Marysville now. That was a partnership with the city that I took part in to work with the city of Marysville, that they're going to sink money into, because they're the ones developing on their corner. So what we get them to do, spend $5 million on Soper Hill Road. And that is coming to fruition right now. Part of it's already done, they're already working on the rest of it. Those are the kind of partnerships that help Lake Stevens out. And we continue those and working with everybody. I know we got to work with Everett for the water line along 20th Street, which is always going to be interesting. We got to work with the sewer district, which is always has been an interesting relationship at times. But we also have to work with PUD and all the rest of it. So it's just you got to work with them on things that you agree on, and then agree to disagree on other things. But how can we all work together to make each other better?
Do you plan on running for this council position in the next city council election, November of 2023?
If appointed, I do plan on running. Yes.
What is your vision regarding public safety in the community, and how does that vision relate to your partnership between the police department and city administration?
You know, we have a great police department right now. Absolutely amazing. And that goes to the work of not only the city council for making sure that they get the right funding and the right respect to our department, but to the chief and everybody all the way down to into the residents of Lake Stevens. Everything. If you go to a city that has a high crime rate, and I've traveled this country when I was in the military, I've traveled the world. I've seen where crime is high. I've lived around Chicago. I've seen crime. I've lived in LA, so I've seen quite a bit of stuff. And when you see the community support the police department, that's when you see a safe place. All crime offends us here in Lake Stevens. You go on the Facebook pages and they report every single crime. Everybody talks about it. And that's a good thing, because when you go to a place where they're not reporting crime, that means they're used to it. That means they're all on their own and they know it. Here in Lake Stevens, we know that we support our police department, and as such, we have a very professional, very courteous, but very much on the job group of people who are ready to defend us when we need to, and will go towards those dangers. And I plan on supporting them. As long as they hold their oath, I will always have their back.
Describe what you believe to be the role of the city council within city government. Given your understanding of the role of council, what qualities will you bring that will both enhance the work of the council and benefit the citizens in our city?
The council is the representative of the people. That's the goal. I know it's there's a bit of a line also with the city, because actions you do will reflect on the city, and could, as you're seeing, you got an executive session coming up talking about legal matters. That's what can happen too. If you do the wrong thing, you get the city sued, our money goes out the window to somebody. So the big things are people. The council's job is a couple things. Number one, the checkbook. Nothing gets approved for funding without city council approving the budget. Number two is all the ordinances and regulations. And number three is holding people, the staff, accountable. We have a great staff, but part of that is also to make sure the council's job is to make sure that they're doing their jobs correctly, that it doesn't badly reflect, that we don't lose money, that services are being done. People need a voice. We are a republic. As such, everybody depends on their elected representatives to be their voice at the government level, and at the city level. And that's what the council's job is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Todd. So all we have for you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
guys have a good one.
Thanks.
Next, we
The
have
bell
Chris.
curve is gonna start going.
Chris, right here. Good to see you. Thanks
Yeah.
for being here.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
Great.
What a great process.
Listen to Kalen for instructions.
Okay.
Good evening.
If we could keep the comments down in the crowd, please.
I got 6 kids I'm used to that.
Oh, you got 6 kids in here?
No, not none of them are mine.
Oh, okay.
So
I
they
know
were
you got a lot of kids,
Get
so.
dirty looks, but I can't do it. So.
Each interview tonight will be 15 minutes long, consisting of 7 questions. Please listen carefully to the interview questions, as each one has multiple parts. And I will signal you when you have 2 minutes remaining so that you know where you're at.
Okay.
Okay? The council recently passed the city budget for 2023. What challenges did the council face in crafting this budget, and what adjustments would you have recommended to improve it?
Well, that's a great question. So I'm not familiar with the current budget at this time. And so it'd be not a great thing for me to comment on what they did or didn't do in that process. So I'd hate to armchair quarterback the work that all of these people have been doing, because I imagine there was hours and hours going line item by line item to see what was the most effective use of funds for the city. And so I would, not being a part of that process, be really difficult for me to try to comment on what they succeeded at and what they should have changed.
What do you think are the most important issues for the city council to address?
That's a great question. So I think there's three key things that our city needs to be focused on moving forward. Number one is public safety. And so part of why we all want to call Lake Stevens home is because this is a safe community to raise families, to have businesses, to work, to play. And so for the city council to be focused on prioritizing funding for training and support for our first responders. You cannot have a flourishing community if you don't start with a safe community. As well, infrastructure would be priority number two. And so we are in some of the realization, some of the vision that previous people have been before on the city council. And we have great parks, great streets, great schools. And I know the school district's a different department, but again, part of why people choose to live here in Lake Stevens is because of the amenities. And it's been so awesome to see the transformation in this place and space here in North Cove, in Lundin over the last several years. And we're going to continue to have people come to the city because it's safe, because it has good schools, because we have a beautiful lake, and they're going to want to live here. And if they're going to want to live here, they're going to need to drive their cars, they're going to need to be able to ride their bikes, and they're going to need to be able to walk around. And so one of the things that was mentioned in some of the sessions that we had before this was sidewalks. And so I don't know where we are in this current process, but my hope would be in the next 3 to 5 years that we would have one continuous sidewalk around Lake Stevens for trails, for bikes, for walking, for safety. And then finally, business development. If you have safety and you have infrastructure, then the city council's role should be able to create an environment that fosters the most amount of business activity here in the city, so that the residents of Lake Stevens can have their sales tax dollars go to support local businesses and also the infrastructure and the government that we have here in town. It's challenging raising 6 kids on one income and to get in your car and drive around with high gas prices to go spend money in other jurisdictions. And so it's been so incredibly encouraging to see a business like Costco come into town here, so that I get like $1,000 check at the end of every year from Costco for my Costco credit card because I spend so much money there, and they have not paid me to give any commercials for them today. But the fact that we now can have all those sales tax dollars coming to the city is huge, and so we need to have more options to work, to eat, to play, to shop. And so my hope is that we see more flagship businesses like Chick-fil-A, Trader Joe's come to town and have really be one community around the lake where people want to live, work, play, eat, and shop in the same place.
As the city is preparing to update its comprehensive plan, how do you deal with pushback of not in my backyard? As the city reevaluates housing, infrastructure, commercial, and public needs with a growing local and regional population.
Yeah, nobody wants to see any development in their backyard. And I'll just speak to this. I actually have currently a view of the lake and the mountains from my house, which is part of why we live here. And there's a lot behind my house. And at some point, somebody could buy that lot and they'd be within their right to build a home, and we'd lose part of our view, and that would be sad. But the reality is, every one of us chose to live here in Lake Stevens for a purpose. And I think it's short-sighted for us as a city to say, hey, I'm here, I've got my place, and then close the door behind us. We're going to continue to see more and more people come from King County, more and more people from other parts of Snohomish County that have not been run as effectively and as efficiently as Lake Stevens has been run. And so there's always going to be growing pains. But if you are prioritizing things like public safety, like infrastructure, and are balancing that with environmental concerns and making sure there's parks and open spaces, change is inevitable. And there will always be people upset with some aspect of what the city is doing. And so I think part of leadership is being able to listen, have empathy, and then be able to also make the important calls, recognizing that this is local government. There's always going to be somebody that's frustrated, and yet we have a call and a charge to create a flourishing community here at Lake Stevens.
How should the Lake Stevens City Council work with other local jurisdictions and agencies, examples, cities, counties, special purpose districts, and state agencies?
Yeah, I mean, we have a really unique community here in Lake Stevens, but we're not an island. And so, we border, Snohomish and Marysville. Marysville is the second largest city in Snohomish County. And so having a really good relationship is important with a city like Marysville. With all the development going on in Soper Hill and the north end of town, we just can't afford to have bad relationships with our other communities, because challenges that happen in Seattle come to Lake Stevens. Challenges that happen in Everett come to Lake Stevens. And so I think having a team attitude and recognizing that we've all been given a unique charge for our community, but we're part of a broader community. I mean, Snohomish County is a fantastic county, and seeing the things that they've done in the last several years has been incredibly encouraging. And so I think we need to make sure that the other jurisdictions in our area look to Lake Stevens for leadership, but also for partnership.
Do you plan on running for this council position in the next city council election in November of 2023?
Absolutely. I think if you're going to invest the time, if you guys are going to invest the time in me, and I'm going to invest the time in the city, then I think it's important to have that work go long term. The Costco project in particular was a 10-year project that spanned multiple city councils and a couple of mayors. And so anything that's going to be done that's going to last here in Lake Stevens is going to take time. My family and I have lived here for 12 years. We've made this community our home intentionally because we love Lake Stevens, and I'm committed to its flourishing in the near-term future.
What is your vision regarding public safety in the community, and how does that vision relate to your partnership between the police department and city administration?
Yeah, like I said, public safety is a high priority, and I'm very honored that we have such a great police force here in Lake Stevens. And they need to know that they are supported by the city council with their budget and with any sort of resources they need. And so in terms of vision, I'd like to see the good work that they're doing continue. And that's part of why I'm here, actually, is I know that there's probably a lot of problems that you guys get to deal with and you get to hear the complaints. But for me as a citizen of Lake Stevens, watching this the last decade, I've been so encouraged. And so my hope and heart when I saw the opening for the city council here was not to be a disruptor, but to do what I can to help continue and build on the great work this council's already done.
Describe what you believe to be the role of the city council within city government. Given your understanding of the role of council, what qualities will you bring that will both enhance the work of the council and benefit the citizens in our city?
Yeah, the city council's role with a strong mayor form of government includes obviously approving the budget. And so I know I said at the beginning here, I don't have a lot of current experience with that, but that's so essential. If we're not paying our bills, then really what are we doing? But every dollar that we spend here in Lake Stevens shows what our priorities are. And so every dollar, every employee that we hire, every department that we have shows our values and shows our priorities. And so my role and my hope in being part of the city council here is that we would continue to show this city what a flourishing community looks like. And so I've been so encouraged today to see the presentation that we had with the Volunteers of America. There are people in our community that are struggling, and where there's opportunities to partner with great community organizations, whether it's them or the city, or excuse me, the senior center, then we need to be a support for that. But again, if this council isn't doing the work to prioritize infrastructure, prioritize public safety, prioritize business development, then those other community organizations don't have a chance to flourish.
Okay. Thank you.
Is that 7?
That's 7.
Wow. I mean, guys, normally I go way over time on everything I do, so to be short, pretty great. So thank you guys for this opportunity.
Thank you for your time, Chris. Up here, Samir. Hey, Samir, thanks for being here and take direction from Caitlin, please.
Good evening. Each interview tonight will be 15 minutes long, consisting of 7 questions. Please listen carefully to the interview questions as each one has multiple parts. I will signal you when you have 2 minutes remaining, just so you know where you're at. Okay?
Okay.
The council recently passed the budget for 2023. What challenges did the council face in crafting this budget, and what adjustments would you have recommended to improve it?
Biggest challenge is the deficit. We have a lot of needs to service in the city, especially with the growth happening. We've seen the population growing rapidly in recent years. So there are a lot of city services that we need to finance, but we don't have the revenues to necessarily run at least a breaking even on the budget. So we're currently this year going to burn through $2 million of cash. Yet we have all these necessities to service. Now, we are projected to run a deficit for 5 years out. And I think that the city should make, I've noticed that there's a lot of cash left on the table from money that we do budget out to the departments. So if we can work with the finance department to be a little more tighter on our projections, then we can know, we can have a better idea and gauge what we have to work with, how much we need to raise in order to close that deficit in the coming years.
What do you think are the most important issues for the city council to address?
Well, the way I think that we should look from the budget and then out. There are a lot of different necessities to balance in the city that come with population growth, such as zoning laws, infrastructure to host it, public safety, and the parks to balance all the economic growth that we do see. So we need to pretty much we need to find a way to service all of those needs of the city, listen to all the entities who have needs, and then find a way to bake in their needs into the budget, but responsibly. We need to be pragmatic at the same time as ambitious for this growth that we're enjoying in the city. So we should still practice. We should still be a little bit more fiscally conservative. Understand that we cannot be burning through cash in order to service these necessities of the city. And so maybe have a bit of a more pragmatic lens when juggling all the needs of the city.
As the city is preparing to update its comprehensive plan, how do you deal with pushback of not in my backyard? As the city reevaluates housing, infrastructure, commercial and public needs with a growing local and regional population.
Mm-hmm. So again, with economic growth and growth in the city, a lot of the sentiments that our neighbors are saying in the comprehensive plan is that we would like some parks to beautify the city while we see a lot of this commercial development and rezoning. And so I think that when deciding on rezoning in accordance to that comprehensive plan, there has been a lot of sessions for the public to be involved in that process. And let's just keep that the front of mind. Let's try to have more, send even more transparency that the city has already done to our neighbors and say, hey, we're going to be talking about rezoning. We would invite you to please participate, perhaps even set up some more subcommissions for people to have a greater voice and to shape those zoning laws. And what the public wants is pretty clear. We have some polls of what type of housing development they want, their emphasis on parks to keep the city lively, just to complement that growth that we're seeing. So continue to keep the public actively involved when making these decisions. I think that's the greatest thing to be sensitive about.
How should the Lake Stevens City Council work with other local jurisdictions and agencies, example, cities, counties, special purpose districts, and state agencies?
Yeah, there's a lot of, I'd like to speak on grants. So there's a lot of grants to be earned and awarded by the state. I know that we have efforts, we currently have efforts to do that. And I think that there will be a lot of projects on the docket that could use some grant money. And so I'd like to continue to emphasize the lobbying efforts that the city has done well to go to Olympia and try to get some more of our money that we send to them back here via grants.
Do you plan on running for this council position in the next city council election in November of 2023?
So my mission is to close the deficit, City of Lake Stevens. That is a multi-year project. If I get the seat as interim city council member, it's not only one thing to make the decisions to close that deficit, but we should also be monitoring the decisions that we do make today. And I do plan to monitor that throughout the next few years out to make sure that our plan to close the deficit is actually following through. And for that reason, if I am to get a seat on the interim council here, I would definitely run for election for a 3-year term, just to make sure that our efforts in closing the deficit follow through.
What is your vision regarding public safety in the community, and how does that vision relate to your partnership between the police department and city administration?
So in looking at the crimes report, it's pretty clear that there's the highest density of crime in the northeast part of the city. And we need to, right now, City of Lake Stevens is currently ranked as the 7th safest city in the state. But in my opinion, that's not enough. We need to get to #1, the safest city in the state. And I would definitely make sure that the Lake Stevens Police Department has resources at hand to fill those vacant seats that positions that it does have in it, in order to have the patrols out there that are needed in order to deal with the crimes that we do see. And yeah, we do definitely need to keep public safety at the top of mind. And we can work. I know that the police department they're trying to have some training programs to get the talent necessary in order to fill those roles. I know that the state has seen rather a shakeup of police officers and turnover in their departments in the past couple of years. So we need to encourage officers that City of Lake Stevens is a good place for them to have their careers. And we'll treat them we will treat them with respect and honor. And that's one thing I've been proud of the city for doing hence far. So we'll definitely retain that emphasis for public safety and take care of our brave women and men on the police force.
Describe what you believe to be the role of the city council within city government. Given your understanding of the role of council, what qualities will you bring that will both enhance the work of the council and benefit the citizens in our city?
Listen, the council is there to liaison between our neighbors and the bureaucratic departments in the city to execute and work for the best interests of the city. And I think that coming onto the council, I think one of the most challenging things to do is to say, hey, I know what I don't know, and I'm going to come in here with humility and really just offer a listening ear to all the different entities within the city and understand their needs. And ultimately, the council person's job is to listen to all the different needs of the city and try to bake that into the budget as best as they can and balance those needs against each other. So if I was to sit on the council here, I would definitely, within the first 6 months, I promise I would meet with every single entity within the city here, lend them my ear first, and then try to understand how to make everybody happy when making the budget for next year, but also offering the city that pragmatic lens to close that deficit so that we can all balance our needs against each other in a responsible manner and sustainable manner.
Thank you.
All right, Samir, that's all the questions we have for you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Next, we have Ryan. On it.
Hey Ryan, how are you? Thanks for being here tonight.
Well, thank you for having me.
If you'll take direction from Caitlin, that'd be great.
Good evening. Each interview tonight will be 15 minutes long, consisting of 7 questions. Please listen carefully to the interview questions as each one has multiple parts. I'll signal you when you have 2 minutes remaining, just like this, just to let you know where you're at. Okay?
Thank you.
The city council recently passed the city budget for 2023. What challenges did the council face in crafting this budget, and what adjustments would you have recommended to improve it?
So I think for me, one of the biggest challenges that I heard in passing the budget was regarding salaries and retaining the talented people we have here in the city. I know there was some discussion about what sort of raise was appropriate given the market rates. And I feel that the council, they did the best job they could in going forward. I think funding for the budget overall, the projections I saw relied on, I think, sales tax increases of 6% and then tapering off to about 5%. And so in trying to retain talented people, funding our police departments, I think top of mind for me, given the video we saw today, the projections used to fund all of these important things relied on increasing revenue. And I have the benefit of hindsight, but I probably would have built in more conservative estimates to the budget. And I would have tried to prioritize things like retaining talented people, funding our police department, ensuring they have the correct equipment, but perhaps curtailing some other projects to provide tax relief to some of our citizens.
What do you think are the most important issues for the city council to address?
So for me, being a new parent, I'm constantly thinking about public safety. When I take my children out for walks on the street, I know I've heard sidewalks mentioned ad nauseum, but honestly, when I've got my 2.5-year-old and I'm holding by the hand and we're walking down the street, I'm very aware of the traffic, the increased traffic flow. And so I think that's one of the primary issues that affects me. More importantly, on a general level, I think just managing the tremendous growth we've seen in the city is one of the issues facing the council. I believe, we've experienced near 4% growth over the last year or so, almost double that of the next closest city. And so I think just the challenge of managing that growth in the face of a potential economic downturn, where, you have to provide the infrastructure to account for that growth. But again, perhaps be more sensitive to how hard we're leaning on citizens and various forms of taxation, increased risk, taking on debt financing just because of the unpredictability of the markets going forward and the city's ability to potentially pay off that debt. I would say for me personally, public safety, and then generally speaking, managing the growth of the city.
As the city is preparing to update its comprehensive plan, how do you deal with pushback of not in my backyard? As the city reevaluates housing, infrastructure, commercial and public needs with a growing local and regional population.
So my approach to that would be to weigh the benefits to the city overall versus the concerns of the citizens that actually take the time to make their voices heard. Again, I think a very timely example has been the short-term rentals. I know that's something where I personally relate to some of the discussion I heard about how do we represent the needs of all citizens and the ability to let citizens do what they want with their property. But it was also very telling to me that in all the public comment, I believe Councilmember Peter Shagan made it a point that nobody on the pro side came forward. So in that sense, my initial knee-jerk response was, okay, how do we make this fair for everybody? But if only one side is coming forward, voicing a concern, I think you have to pay attention to that and realize that maybe there is only one side. Maybe that's the side that needs to be prioritized.
How should the Lake Stevens City Council work with other local jurisdictions and agencies, example, cities, counties, special purpose districts, and state agencies?
So at a high level, I would say as collaboratively as possible. If my experience has taught me anything, it's that you never know what relationships will come back to benefit you or hurt you. More specifically, if we're talking about certain state and county agencies, I think it's also important to consider the funding options that are available. So through grant programs and things like that, anything that can help supplement the city budget. I think the financial aspects and managing those relationships are probably the most important things.
Do you plan on running for this council position in the next city council election in November of 2023?
So yes, I do. You know, the obvious caveat of barring any unexpected life changes. Said I've got a fairly young family, but they fully support me in this. So as long as everything is good on the home front, I would plan on running for this position again.
What is your vision regarding public safety in the community, and how does that vision relate to your partnership between the police department and city administration?
So my vision for public safety, for me personally, there's two ways to look at it. It's qualitative. How do the citizens feel? Do they feel safe? Are we hearing about concerns that they have? You know, are they comfortable walking around at night, going to certain areas of the city? But then I think also just as important is the quantitative aspect. What sort of data are we getting from our police department? Are we seeing, you know, objective, concrete proof of any increase in crime, any decrease in crime? And I think as far as partnership with the police force, it would be, how do we take that input, both the qualitative and the quantitative, and give them what they need? How do we make sure that our police force can effectively make our citizens feel safe? And then also, how do we make them more efficient? Because again, it all kind of ties back to budgetary issues. So we want to empower the police, give them the tools they need, but also be mindful of the cost, and then make sure that we're achieving results, both qualitative and quantitative, for our citizens.
Describe what you believe to be the role of the city council within city government. Given your understanding of the role of council, what qualities will you bring that will both enhance the work of the council and benefit the citizens in our city?
So in its purest form, I believe the role of the council is to represent the people. And in the more day-to-day aspect of it, it's, you know, budgetary issues, statutory issues, and making those sorts of decisions collaboratively. As far as what I would bring to the council, you know, my background, as I mentioned in my letter, I'm an attorney. I received my JD and my MBA from Seattle University. My day job, I'm an intellectual property and insurance consultant. So I would bring the skills that I've acquired over that career, both statutory analysis, budget analysis, financial planning. I would bring those skills. And I think importantly, maybe not so much a skill, but a mindset. I think it's very important to keep in mind for this position that I would not be elected to the council the way you all were. I would, if chosen, I would be a part of this council because the six of you had 15 minutes to hear me talk. You had a letter of interest, and beyond that, the citizens, you know, they had no say in me being appointed this council. So I think the mindset I would bring is that I would be more of a steward for the remainder of Councilmember Frederick's term than, you know, somebody brought in to push my own ideas and my own thoughts. I would do my best to use my skills to support, you know, the will of this council, because you represent, you know, the choice of the electorate. And so I think that would be an important thing to keep in mind.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, Ryan. That's all the questions we have for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is gonna be my fun.
Nice.
Come on. Go on. We added something to your video, so I didn't know that part. We'll see.
John, thanks for being here tonight.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You bet. If you will listen to Kaylin, she has instructions.
Do my best.
Good evening. Each interview tonight will be 15 minutes long, consisting of 7 questions. Please listen carefully to the interview questions as each one has multiple parts. I'll signal you when you have 2 minutes remaining, just so you know where you're at. You're ready to begin. The council recently passed the city budget for 2023. What challenges did the council face in crafting this budget, and what adjustments would you have recommended to improve it?
This current budget, I know, is 2 million plus over. Those tough decisions being made with those, with how to create more revenue is a big issue. I know you guys made some tough decisions with the Chapel Hill community and that piece of property, and looking for buyers for that. The budget itself had some, I know there were some union issues that were dealt with, and with our having to fund the police department, and as well as our city members and our staff in the city. So those were all tough decisions and had to be considered. And so
What do you think are the most important issues for the city council to address?
City council needs to continue addressing obviously the safety of our citizenry, making sure we have a fully staffed police department. I believe we're 6 short at this point. Love to see those 6 positions filled. You're competing with a number of agencies around the area that are offering huge signing bonuses and stuff. So that needs to be addressed. I don't necessarily believe signing bonuses are the way to address it, but Chief Bezio and I know the Civil Service Commission are working hard on that. The growth of our city has been astronomical. It's been amazing to watch. We're the fastest growing city in the state. From 2000 to 2020, we grew 87%, some crazy number like that. I moved here in 2007. It was a nice suburb of 20,000 people with a small town vibe and a big town amenities around us. Unfortunately, you know, we've grown to 40,000. We still have that small town vibe, this beautiful downtown area. But we need to continue to manage that and figure out where that money is going to come from. And then our infrastructure, we have the three preeminent companies moving in. Costco is on the south end. We got Chick-fil-A and Whole Foods, Marysville's, but still going to be access to Lake Stevens. Our infrastructure needs to be looked after, cared for, managed, and developed. I don't know if I'm a huge roundabout fan, but you know, the roundabouts are it right now. So hopefully we can figure some things out with the infrastructure.
As the city is preparing to update its comprehensive plan, how do you deal with pushback of not in my backyard? As the city reevaluates housing, infrastructure, commercial, and public needs with the growing local and regional population.
Yeah, coming back to that Chapel Hill property and the promises of a civic campus that didn't materialize. The economy changes, everything, plans change. Putting that up for sale is probably best for the entire city as a whole. Unfortunately, Chapel Hill is definitely not the beneficiary. That's something we're looking for, but they're kind of getting the raw end of that deal, not having the civic campus and now going to have commercial property, where a park would have been really nice to have, but we have to weigh the needs of the majority against the wants of the few, unfortunately. And those are the tough decisions the council makes, and you guys have been making for the last few years.
How should the Lake Stevens City Council work with other local jurisdictions and agencies, examples, cities, counties, special purpose districts, and state agencies?
Having this astronomical growth, we haven't grown into ourselves yet. We have this 40,000, roughly 40,000 the population, but we don't have we're dealing with now, some of the homelessness is crept across the trestle and is starting to migrate into some of our communities. And with the homelessness or the unhoused issue, we need to collaborate with county, with Everett, to use some of the resources that they have in our neighboring cities to work together to do that. I love that. And another aspect, I love that we have a police department that is Lake Stevens Police Department. It's not county guys coming in on a contract. In that way, I'm glad we're not working with the county on it. And I'm proud that we have our safety and people taking pride in the community they live in and policing that community where they work. I think that's strong.
Do you plan on running for this council position in the next city council election in November of 2023?
It is November 2020. So I'm sorry, it just took me off guard. I thought this was roughly a year and a half. I would have to reevaluate, but my intention is to take this position as if I was elected, be accountable to the citizens of Lake Stevens, and get ready to be elected to the council as an actual elected person. So right now, I would say yes. If at the time it wasn't the right fit for me for the city, if there's someone I felt would be better off, or it wasn't working for my family, then I would have to step aside for that. But that would be a decision that was wholly based on family and that.
What is your vision regarding public safety in the community, and how does that vision relate to your partnership between the police department and city administration?
Being a Seattle police officer with the city of Seattle, public safety is foremost on my mind. As I said, the fact that we have a Lake Stevens Police Department is amazing. And getting that fully staffed, I know it's fully funded, is of utmost importance. That Civil Service Commission working to draw candidates away from some bigger cities. You have Everett offering those bonuses, large bonuses. And could you repeat the second part of that, or
Sure.
repeat the question for me?
What is your vision regarding public safety in the community, and how does that vision relate to your partnership between the police department and city administration?
I've seen and witnessed what a government entity can do to a police department. I'm living it right now. That communication between the council, between the city admins, as they sit behind me, is critical. The police department is the face of the government. So having those officers be proud and working in concert with the city council is critical. And it's like I said, they're the face of the government. When people get pulled over, that is the face of the government talking to that person. So it's critical to have a strong relationship between the two.
Describe what you believe to be the role of the city council within city government. Given your understanding of the role of council, what qualities will you bring that will both enhance the work of the council and benefit the citizens of our city?
That's a long question. I'm sorry, I may need you to repeat that. Sorry.
Describe what you believe to be the role of the city council within city government. Given your understanding of the role of council, what qualities will you bring that will both enhance the work of the council and benefit the citizens of our city?
Okay. The role of the government in our city council in our government. I apologize. I am just messing that question up in my head. Can I get that one more time?
Sure. Describe what you believe to be the role of the city council within city government. Given your understanding of the role of council, what qualities will you bring that will both enhance the work of the council and benefit the citizens in our city?
My apologies. city council, I know we operate as a full-time mayor and a part-time city council at this time. The city council is responsible, obviously, for the safety of our citizens, to be run a fiscally sustainable budget that accounts for future endeavors, and then to work on that infrastructure and making it reasonable for someone to go to Frontier Village without waiting at a stoplight for 6 minutes to turn. So those are the three main interests of city council. And putting aside the are these eyes and everything else, I have no agenda. I don't have a reason to do this. I don't have I just started, I opened my consulting business in the city of Lake Stevens. It operates out of my house. So I don't need anything to be changed for in government. The qualities they bring are, I'm a good listener. Aside from that question, please disregard my listening abilities for that. But as a police officer, my goal as a police officer to gain voluntary compliance with this. I want to say I perfected it. I made 1,000 DUI arrests and never had a single complaint. My primary duties are to arrest impaired drivers, and now my duties are to train officers to do that. So being a good listener, being someone who can, with humility, talk to people and understand I don't have all the answers. Sometimes it's just facilitating conversation. And I'm good at that. And I'm a team player. If I'm on your team, I got your back 100%. I may disagree in private, but I'll never badmouth you in public. I understand coming into a role like this, low man on the totem pole, probably gonna get the least desirable positions, but I'll do it humbly and I'll do it to the best of my ability so that we all look good. And that's my goal as a team player. I coach basketball in this community for 10 years. I helped at the high school. The goal is always to get the victory as a team. And I am capable of stepping back and being that support player, or I can step up and I can lead and in certain situations that calls for it.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you, John. That's all the questions we have for you. Thank you for your time. Let me take a minute. Before we do that, Councilmember Daughtry wanted a few minutes for the audience.
So the young people, let me explain a little bit more about the process that we're under and why we're doing it. What we had a city council, a much loved city council member leave due to work requirements, and he has to leave the city, so he cannot be on the council anymore. So the process in Washington is that if that happens, if a city councilman resigns for any reason, doesn't really matter what it is, we have 90 days to replace that council person, or if we do not do it within 90 days, basically the county council or the county executive can just replace. So what we go through is this process to figure out who we want to sit on our council with us, and it could be like Mr. Huber said, a team player, and continue the great work that Sean Frederick was doing on the council before he had to leave. And he's in the room, so I'm trying to, be careful with what I say. So anyway, that's there's a little bit more to process than what you saw here tonight. We're kind of under the timeline in order to get it done. Otherwise, it gets taken out of our hands, put into somebody else's hands that don't have the same reasons to put a good person in the place. So that's why we're doing this.
Great. I'm going to revert back to mayor's business so that we can recognize council member. Former council member. And then we'll continue on the agenda after that. Former council, I don't want to say former. Sean, that one works. Sean, come on up. So, great to have Sean in here. It's kind of, it was weird earlier. I looked to the right, right there. Sorry. Good seeing you. Yeah. So I'm going to say a couple words and then I'm going to open the floor to the council. If anybody wants to say some words, and we'll give you the floor after that. So we're here. Okay. So John has been on council for 3 years, was elected to the council. And kind of funny story, we were after his election and then our first trip to DC to do some lobbying back in the feds. Sean had to leave early because of his civilian job of being in charge of everything health in Snohomish County. So dealing with this little pandemic thing we got going on. Sean, for us being on the council, has brought several layers of skills, I think I want to say, into the council, whether that's a civilian job and being great guidance for me, someone I could call up and say, hey, what's going on with this during the pandemic? And where should we be going as a city? So that was a great asset for me. His experience in the military is a great asset on the council as well, especially with our military community that we have in the city. Sean has worked hard on the Veterans Commission, worked on the Veterans Foundation, as well as on the Youth Advisory Council, and getting those things going and to continue running with those as well. I think for me, what I will miss the most about Sean being on the council, other than being someone I consider a good friend, is just his thoughtfulness. When we would get into discussions and the quiet stoic guy would come up with these great questions and different angles at something that we've been trying to tackle. And that was always Sean for me. I was always interested in what was going to come out of his mouth. It was probably something very good and something we hadn't thought about yet. So, Sean, I want to present to you this plaque out of the appreciation, a grateful appreciation for the outstanding service and commitment to the citizens of Lake Stevens as a city councilman. See something about Sean?
Nah,
Nobody?
no, I'm the senior councilman by 6 weeks. I just don't want Marcus to forget it. So I will say that, Sean, I admired you. I looked forward to every time you opened your mouth because it was just golden stuff came out. It's just wow, I didn't think of that. You changed my mind on several things we were talking about based on some of the things you said. So I will admit that I can change my mind sometimes, and I may not be going in the right direction all the time, but you're not the only one that's done that, but you did it more than anybody. I can say that. So I am going to miss you, and I hope for you the best in your future endeavors.
Thank you.
I'll go. This is the second time today I've gotten to say good things about Sean, which I love because I know it makes you just a little bit uncomfortable. So I take a little pleasure in it. I've just so enjoyed getting to know you over the last 3 years. It's been great sitting up here with you. I agree, your thoughtfulness is much appreciated. I really appreciate the humility that you bring to this work and your dedication to being a civil servant, to representing the people in our city. I wish you the very, very best. I'm going to miss giving you a hard time. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your work here.
Pretty much what Angie and what Kim said, I would have to echo. But I also want to thank you as a grandma, because when we went to Washington, D.C., this guy kept an eye out on me, make sure I was always nearby. He just made sure. And he says he grew up that way. So I said, go mama, good job. But really, it's been great to know you and to watch you in action and to hear from you because you're like everyone said, you always seem to nail it. And it really was good to hear. And we're going to miss you and wish you the very best. Okay.
Sean, I'll go ahead. Thanks for being a great council member. Really appreciate it. It's a privilege to call you a friend as well. I definitely can't imagine what it's been like being on the health district through the last 2.5 years with all the pandemic, trying to balance out all the work there. I've heard about it many times, but then the work on the council as well, and the insight you brought to the council from your outside work and so forth has been great. It's helped us make great decisions, and you've always kept us well informed. And once again, it's been a privilege to call you a friend, and you've served yourself so well here, and you'll definitely be missed.
Sean, on behalf of the citizens of Lake Stevens, thank you for your service. I appreciate your wisdom, your humility. And I wish that we, as Marcus said, would have had more of you. You were taken away from us a lot of times for your other duties at the health district. And I just wish you could have spent more time here. So appreciate your service. Thank you.
So Sean, I ran against Sean 3 years ago and lost. So I was in the exact same seat as ever 7 folks were 3 years ago, almost to the day. And so one of the things that I appreciate, so Sean and I met shortly after I lost, and we met in the Hagen Cafe. And Sean was very gracious in victory. He was very encouraging, very supportive of me, both personally and with regard to my role in the council. Not very many people have the character or capacity to be able to do that. But I've always appreciated that because, you know, when you come in second, I don't like to come in second. So I appreciated that. Also, many of you don't know, Sean is the vice president of the council. And I've heard people say, oh, the vice president doesn't do anything. It's just a position. They don't do anything. Sean was a very trusted confidant and someone I relied on and confided and worked with for the interests of the council and the city. I talked to him frequently about different things and got his input because I have a tremendous amount of respect for him, his judgment, his wisdom. And so I would have not, he supported me in my role as president with high integrity and told me when I was wrong, told me I should go in a different direction. And I appreciated that. I needed to hear things like that. And his commitment, you know, Sean had some family issues and out of town and was, you know, coming online. This is back when we were meeting at 7 o'clock, several time zones away on the East Coast, and made time despite his family challenges, despite his day job during the pandemic, made himself available for those council meetings. So I've just been impressed on many levels, along with what Council Member Daughtry said. Sean brought a different perspective on things. I never once detected a personal agenda or ulterior motives or any dissembling or disingenuousness on his part. And I deal with people who lie to me every day. That's their job, and I get to make decisions based on that. And so I think I'm pretty good at detecting that type of behavior. And I really appreciate the extraordinary level of honesty and straightforwardness. And that was solidified during the course of the short-term rental subcommittee, of which he was a part. Sean and Angie provided an extraordinary input. And I'm grateful that we were able to serve together in that capacity. So Sean, I have high level confidence that your new employer is going to be blessed by your integrity, your intelligence, your hard work, and your humility. So thank you, and best of luck in your new endeavors.
Sean, go ahead.
Well, that's a lot to try to take in and process. I would say, I want to start off by saying I owe a lot of gratitude to a lot of people for even having the opportunity and the honor to serve.
most notably, Councilmember Sajik, who really was the person responsible for making me believe that really this unknown, divorce dad could actually win an election. It's challenging for everyone who doesn't know in service of the work that all of these leaders do. There's a vast amount of emotional commitment to what we do. Sometimes
No, some people have a hard time.
wow, that's new. There's a lot of emotional commitment that each of these council members bring to the table. And the work that's required to be done. And you often hear spirited conversation. And that conversation isn't based in malice, or it's based in bringing our unique perspectives forward and trying to have a dialogue around solving really complex problems. Even something as simple as how do we get sidewalks around the city is an incredibly complex and incredibly expensive endeavor. But it has been an honor to serve the people of Lake Stevens. It's well known. I don't think any of us has actually met all 40,000 residents of the city. So we are all here to represent our constituents, all of you. And we can never actually meet the goal of representing every last one of them. I know that there have been very easy decisions like supporting law enforcement and supporting development of the parks that are very easy and to support. And universally, we're all going to be very quick to move forward in those things. But there are challenging issues like how do we properly surplus property, or how do we move forward with certain initiatives? How do we get sewers built? How do we build sidewalks? How do we deal with short-term rentals? There's never going to be a 100% of the people agree with those. And the challenge for us is that we do have to make decisions that ultimately represent the vast majority of 40,000 people, whether they're here in the room or not. So with that, I would just say thank you to all of my colleagues for taking the time to hear me when I thought there was an opinion or a perspective that should be voiced. And thank you to all of you for the opportunity and the pleasure and the honor to serve on the city council for the city.
Thank you, Sean.
I wouldn't do that. I don't know how much work you put
I know.
So our next step, we're gonna move into executive session. So that means we're gonna clear the room and we're gonna go for 30 minutes on the first subject. And then the second subject, let's go with 15 minutes.
Okay, so 45 minutes to discuss qualifications of a candidate for appointment to an elective office and for potential litigation. It is 7:24, so 45 minutes is
8:09.
something.
Not a.
Kathy, thank you.
8:09.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, and there will be action after this executive session. So for anybody who wants to stick around for that,
Hard if you make it hard. Yep.
All right, we back up. Okay.
Jean, can we do a sound check real quick? Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, great. So we are back from executive session. We did hold two subjects and we do have action on one of them, which is choosing a new city council member. So with that, Council President.
I moved for the appointment of Ryan Donahue to fill the unexpired term of office held by former city council member Sean Frederick. Second.
Okay, I have a motion, and I have a motion to appoint Ryan Donahue to fill the unexpired term of office held by former city council member Sean Frederick. And I have a second. Is there any discussion on the motion?
We have a roll call vote.
If we could have a roll call vote.
Okay, Councilmember Daughtry,
Aye.
Councilmember Peterson,
Aye.
Councilmember Dickinson,
Aye.
Councilmember Dorsett,
Aye.
Councilmember Ewing,
Yes.
Councilmember Tajik.
Aye.
Okay, we have a new city council member. Congratulations, Ryan. So Ryan, our plan is to go ahead and swear you in tonight. But what we would like to do, we're big family people, literally, and for some of us. And so we would love to have you come back. Obviously, we would love to have you come back. But at the next council meeting, we'd love to have your family here and do kind of a more
ceremonial.
We'll have a sword and stuff.
Sure. Swords.
Knighthood. So that's what we'd like to do. So for now, we'll swear you in, so you're official tonight, and then we'd love to have your family come in next time.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for being here and interviewing.
Yes.
Great job.
Yeah,
Thank you, all of you. Thank you, all of you. Absolutely.
All right. Ryan, I got you. I do solemnly swear or affirm. Solemnly swear and affirm. That I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States. That I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States. And the Constitution and laws of the state of Washington. And the Constitution and laws of the state of Washington. And that I will faithfully and impartially. And I will faithfully and impartially. Perform and discharge the duties. Perform and discharge the duties. Of the office of City of Lake Stevens. Of the office of City of Lake Stevens. Council position number 3. Council position number 3. For a midterm vacancy. For a midterm vacancy. According to the law and best of my ability. According to the law and the best of my abilities. To everybody, tough decisions, great candidates all around. We hope and pray that you will continue to engage with the city and be involved with the city, because you guys bring in a great wealth of experience and knowledge. And thank you again for applying and taking your time forward with this. So with that, new council member, can you give us a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you very much.